So at this point, I know some people are probably like, what happened to the Parks family? We kind of fell off the face of the earth, right? That's what it seems like. But no, that's not what happened. I think some of you probably have assumed the worst case scenarios, and others who know us intimately know exactly what's going on. But I decided it was time to revisit the Repat Diaries and share my story and just talk about the twists and turns of life. And things are not always going to happen the way you planned them to. So since we arrived back in the States, a lot has changed. Our family dynamics have changed dramatically. Dell and I are no longer married. I'm back home in New Orleans, and Dell and DJ are in Atlanta. And I know some people are probably like, no, but you know, divorce is not always a bad thing, and starting over is not always a bad thing. Honestly, sometimes you have to hit the reset button, especially when you've made decisions in your life. I won't say for the wrong reasons, but at a time where you probably weren't prepared enough to make certain decisions. When we got back from Africa, I was just headed for just a different space and place in my life. And I think going to Africa ended up being more of like this spiritual sabbatical for me than it was like we was moving and we were staying and all this stuff that we had planned prior to. But it definitely it made me face a lot of harsh truths. Africa has a way of doing that. Probably tapping out of America in general for a long period of time will have you facing a lot of hard truths. But the motherland really did it for me. It forced me to face myself, and it also forced me to ask myself, like, are you living in your truth? And honestly, the answer was no. So the day after we got back, something in me like spoke to me kind of like honestly clear as day and was like, it's time to move. And that same pull that I had to move to the motherland was the same pull that I had to walk away from my marriage. For those of you who do not know, Dell and I have been together 10 years. We were together 10 years and married 8. And you know, we have DJ 6 now. So we have been together for a minute. And you know, I feel like I made a lot of decisions as a young woman based on just thinking that life had to look a certain way, it had to go a certain way. Like I had to graduate from school, I had to get married, I had to start a family, like all of these things. And I also spent a lot of time like chasing what my parents had at a young age and trying to mimic that. And so I made decisions based on that, and also just like societal pressures and all these things. Like, you know, you get out of college and you're like, okay, time is ticking. I'm heading towards my 30s. You know, I need a husband. I need this. I need that. I need a career, all these things. And, you know, you just, sometimes life is on this fast track and you have no time to really just hit the brakes and say, whoa, like whose blueprint am I working off of? Nevertheless, now that I look back, I realize the definition of repatriation is to return to one's origin. And I know, you know, for most people, they think of ethnicity. So for us, is of course, is Africa. But to me now I have a whole new perspective on repatriation, and I think for me it's more so like return to your true self. And that's exactly what I've done. And it's been the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my entire life. But I'm here and I'm happy. And Dell and I, we've always had a really good friendship as the foundation of our relationship. And because of that, we're able to co-parent very well together. And we've had a lot of open and honest conversations about the last 10 years and what that looked like and all these different things. But we're in a really good space as individuals. Excuse me. So we're able to work together as a team still to raise our son. But I say all that to say, I felt like the Repat Diaries couldn't just like die. It was my baby. I worked very hard on it alongside Dell, of course, but it was definitely my baby. And I'm like, I can't just let it die. And I almost feel like not only did I owe it to myself to kind of continue, it's a diary. It's a you know, these are video diaries. And so, you know, your diary never really ends. So I'm like, okay, well, how do I continue to tell my story in a way where I do myself justice, and I also kind of give you all, I think, that closure that you probably all were like, we don't have, because y'all just stopped making videos when y'all got back. But what does that look like? So I just felt like I needed to continue to tell my story. And a lot has happened since coming back home. And I say home because New Orleans is my home. And I have been doing a lot of unpacking, a lot of healing. I really didn't realize how much I was carrying with me, not only through life, but even through the journey through Africa. I didn't really process the year in Africa until way after I got back. And I mean, when I tell you it started coming full circle, it really started to hit home. And I'm definitely going to talk to you guys about that. But I have been doing a lot of healing work, and I want to share that with you guys. Since I've been home, I've been talking to a lot of friends and even just like strangers, and I realized there's just a lot of the same energy amongst people right now of, you know, things kind of being shaken up and folks having to face a lot of hard truths, and relationships falling apart, and marriages falling apart, and friendships falling apart, people falling apart in general. And I can relate to a lot of those things. So, you know, my goal is to share with you all and to be open and honest as much as I possibly can. Probably a lot more now than when we were on the continent. You know, about some of the things that I faced when I was in Africa and what I've been facing since I've been back home. So we're going to talk about it all. You know, life after divorce, being single after a decade of being in a relationship, having to co-parent, healing old wounds, childhood traumas, parental relationships, dating. It's been crazy, y'all. It really has been crazy, and it's been life-changing, and I've learned so many lessons, and I am becoming such a beautiful, beautiful woman because of it. And you know, it's crazy because I feel like I'm finally stepping into my womanhood, and I'm 32, and you know, a lot of people probably think maybe someone in like your mid-late 30s. But I'm like, no, it's just happening for me. I don't know, everybody's timeline is different, everybody's journey is different, but for me, things are just starting to come full circle. So I wanted to make just this initial video just to kind of get you all ready for what's to come. But the Parks family, we're still a family. You know, it's just our family looks different now, you know, and love has not been lost at all. We have an extreme understanding of who we're becoming, who we once were, and we both have a mutual respect for that. And for that, I'm so very grateful. And I'm thankful for all the people who have supported us through this time. And because let me tell y'all something. Honey, people mean out there. Ooh, y'all so mean. Let me tell you something. After telling people we were coming back to the States after, you know, leaving and traveling through Africa and all these things, and we were like, you know, we were coming home. Ooh, we got some of the nastiest messages and comments and everything else. And I'm pretty sure even now people are going to have things to say. But you know what? People are always going to have things to say no matter what you're doing. You could be living right. You could be living wrong. You could be living in between. Everybody has an opinion, and that's okay. I've learned to grow a very tough skin also over the last year and a half, 2 years. And really understanding that other people's opinion of me does not define me. So it's okay. Say what you will. I'm still here. I'm still alive. I'm happy. I'm healthy. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. But we definitely have a lot to catch up on. And I felt like it was time. It was definitely time. So I hope you guys tune in. It's going to be some exciting things on here. I plan on sitting down with a few people and just talking about being back in the States. I think I'm going to have a few sit downs with some of the, how shall I say, some of our brothers and sisters from the continent who live in New Orleans. We have a lot of first generation continentals here, or Africans here, or however you guys want to label folks these days. I've heard it all. But our brothers and sisters that live here definitely have some interesting perspectives on what it's like to be on this side of the coin. And I have my perspective on what it's like to be on the other side of the coin. I might sit down with my mom because we've been doing a lot of healing work, and my grandmother. So like maybe like a 3-generation red table, shout out to Jada, red table type of situation. I don't know. Some of my girlfriends who are young and married and going through it. Some of my single girlfriends who feel like dating nowadays is just, it's pretty much obsolete, and what's the point? Just stay tuned. It's going to be interesting, to say the least. But I am so happy to be back in front of the camera. I definitely missed it. This is therapeutic for me. So, yeah, I hope you guys tune in. And thank you again for joining me on the Repat Diaries. Peace.